I'm thrilled to welcome our guest today, Abdallah Al-Hakim, who has mastered the art of turning data insights into revenue opportunities and currently leading digital marketing at Abnormal Security. And today we're diving into something that most B2B companies are completely overlooking: the goldmine of buyer intent and product sentiment hiding in plain sight on Reddit, of all places. Yep, Reddit. And Abdallah will share his perspective on why the conventional wisdom about pipeline generation might be holding companies back. So go grab your favorite snack and let's dig into what Abdallah has to say. So let's start by understanding why Reddit might be the missing piece in most B2B pipeline strategies today. So Abdallah, welcome to the show.
Hi, Andrew. I'm happy to be here. It was good to see you again. It's been a while. Let's jump into it. I've been spending a lot of time with paid social. I'm a big fan of, I'm a big believer in advertising on multiple channels. Like even for B2B, you should be spending money on LinkedIn, Instagram even, and Facebook. And Reddit's been on my radar for a while. Even in my days at Armor Blocks, we started to actually spend money on Reddit at the end, on just ads, like really simple stuff. But recently, if you just go and you do any search in Google, right? Like you don't need to do anything special, you'll see that it shows up really in the top 3-4 hits of like any search you do. If you're looking for any product, any company, anything really, it just shows up. Like you see Reddit thread right there. And I believe they have a partnership with Google, so it could be why. But I think I read somewhere recently they've grown in their SEO presence by like 1,800%. So
if you really want to go down the conspiracy theory route, Google invested a bunch of money in Reddit right before the IPO. But I don't know. I don't know what happened. But
all I can tell you, whatever happened, they are showing up extremely high in any thread you see.
Yes.
But on top of that, people, maybe it's a generational thing, they like what they read on Reddit. They can't trust them more. Like you've got, of course, if you're a top level, for example, CIS person, you still got to get your report from the Foresters and the Gartner. But I think a lot of the people at the entry level or the IT specialist, whatever it is, they trusted. I think they like the raw format. It just seems more genuine, right? And more so forth. So it's a great place for you to just see, like, are people talking about my product? Are people talking about the topic of interest to me, right? Now, this is extremely hard to do, like, manually, I believe, right? Like to go in and, you can look and scan stuff and just get a gist, right? But now with the LLMs and like AIs, if you just know what to feed it, you can start to say, well, I want to see what people are saying about me, right? So I started looking to see, well, is there a way to actually access all the threads, right?
Yeah.
First, I found a company called Appify or a tool online that actually they do all the scraping for you, and you have an option for scraping on Reddit. And usually when I find that with them, I'm like, okay, if they can do it, that means there must be APIs for doing it, right? Those guys don't have anything special. And they charge a lot of money for it each month. Say a lot of money. It's like $40 a month, right? And I'm like, that's kind of a lot of money if you're just testing it out. So I'm like, but if they're doing it, there must be a way. So then I was able to find, yes, of course there is. There's an API. It's available. You open an account on Reddit as a developer. You get API access. And then the API steps are not that complicated, right? I'm like, cool. So then, and also, by the way, this is something I will say. If you don't know how to do this stuff, just ask AI. Like, honestly.
Yeah, right. So right now, what you're saying is that I, as a pipeline generation specialist at B2B SaaS company, can go set up a Reddit developer account, get API access, and then start to do these searches. And then I know that you're using, which we can talk about another time, but AirOps, where I'm deep in the weeds on Clay tables and potentially populating Clay records with all the things, right?
You do also on Clay table. It's the same. Actually, Clay even has a out-of-the-box integration with Reddit that you can do stuff for you. But you can do it. Yeah, I'm using AirOps. It's just basically a place where you put the steps together. But the steps are still API call, which I basically did. If you're stuck, ask ChatGPT. API call, you pull in the API, you pull the information, and then you take the information, you feed it into a step with the LLMs. You pick the LLMs you want. In AirOps, I have the luxury. It's the same thing also, I think, in Clay, where you can pick the LLM of choice you want. And I tried a few, and then you tell it, analyze the following, and I want to see this. So I was able to do that and actually get. So what I did, I put the name of the company. I'll say Abnormal, and I'm like, look up for me all the subreddits that have spoken about Abnormal. It returned to me, and I had a limit of 10. Again, it was a test, and then from there, I'm like, analyze each one. So then I had the LLMs go analyze each one and return to me a report of this sentiment, any quotes in it, if it's saying stuff about normal that's good or bad, also stuff like, like how often is it being mentioned or followed, right? So like literally in seconds, I had the reporters telling me, here's what people are saying about abnormal on Reddit, right?
So you can take all of that rich discussion, distill it down into something that I can actually use. And then what's fascinating to me is that more conversations are happening on Reddit around brands and being able to use that. And are you able to actually then take that and figure out what prospects are talking about it based on the users? Or is it just about sentiment data for...
Well, you can start to find the Reddit threads that are important for you. So there's really a lot of things to do with it, right? Like I'll say...
But what's the one thing, if we're doing one snack with Reddit, what is that one thing that you would want to do to be able to actually generate pipeline?
I would take, for me, since I do a lot of money on ads, I would take the sentiment, what people are saying, and I would use another like LLM to then create ads based on what I'm listening, right? Like you can take what people are saying, right?
So
and
the play is ads, paid ads, not
like for this one. But there's a lot of other use cases, right? Like you should definitely get your product marketers in there to actually engage in the conversations, right? You can even just get sentiment on how the product is performing, right? And you tell your team, hey guys, we need to improve the stuff, and then you can maybe have a post about it and site, hey, we listened for all these threads and we did that, and that probably will show up for you on some other threads, right? So if you can show as a brand that we're listening to these concerns that are legitimate and we're addressing them, like internally and also externally, here's what we did, that's amazing, right? So instead of telling, if you have a product team, instead of telling them, here's what's wrong with the product, you tell them, guys, here's what people who are actually using the product are saying. And then as a marketer, you can take what people are saying, and if it's true, you can address it. If it's not true, you can run ads and actually use their words that will use sentiment to actually run ads that will probably, like if you're complaining about something and all of a sudden you saw an ad that was addressing the pain points you're complaining about, you probably open them up and see it.
Or think that Apple is listening to you because they had a lawsuit saying that Mike's been on the whole time and they're serving ads to you. So they might think that it's the Apple lawsuit that happened, but who knows? But it's really, really crazy to me that you can take all that sentiment, distill it down, and be able to then turn it into making ads and paid ads that are going to allow you to capture more attention just based on what's happening on Reddit. I was thinking more about the Clay table piece of cold outbound, but
the other thing with Reddit, like unlike other platforms, you don't really know who the person is. They all have these funny numbers and names, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really enrich the person. If you could, that would be amazing. But eventually also, like most companies, and this is something actually I'm exploring now, I'm still in the early days here at Abnormal, is you need to have your own threads as a company too, right? You need to be able to, but it needs to be a fine line between a thread that's useful for the community and a thread that's not overly all about.
Right, but then you got another thing to manage, right? Like, do you want to actually build out a Reddit thread for the company to manage?
I think Reddit right now is so massive, it's so huge, it's not going anywhere, that you need to have a strategy for Reddit. I think it's that big. I actually just read a blog the other day on AirOps talking about like Reddit and all things. It is just so massive that I don't think you can just ignore it and just say,
okay, fine, because it's showing up in all the threads. Yeah, but what about, if you were to order it, is it LinkedIn, Reddit, YouTube? Or how would you organize what the top?
I think that's not. I think LinkedIn, Reddit, YouTube is not bad. Yeah, I think Reddit just its early days. According to whether it's just an awareness play, it's not going to be a major lead gen play. But I think as an awareness, as a brand, you need to be on it. Yeah. It just shows up. Like I said, like you put in any company's name, you'll see.
Do you have a strategy in a playbook for how a brand should create their Reddit?
That's why I want to build. No, I don't have a strategy yet.
I don't think anybody does. For B2B
no, I don't think anyone does. No, but I read this big article.
All right, so whoever's listening to this, go create the B2B SaaS Reddit play playbook and come back and give it to us.
If you can tell a company, if you have an agency or something, and you tell a company, we know how to build this for you on Reddit, it's amazing, right? I can run ads and like I said, right? That's fine, but it's how to really own the conversation, how to be a part of the conversation, how to make sure that when people are seeing any thread about our company, that we are in there, and so it's So I just think it's really massive that it's people are getting. One way is it's a key way people, I'll say, are kind of understanding like your company and your pod that you can't just ignore. It's like saying, I'm not going to spend any money on the Force or the Gartner and the software enterprise. You cannot do that.
Right.
You have to know, is there a clear lead gen from that? No, but you know that if you're a CISO and you're selling to enterprise companies, you got to be in the magic quadrant. I mean, you just have to be.
Yeah.
They're not going to buy from you.
All right.
In time, as a practitioners, also, as I announced you too, like we found that most of the comments in Reddit about abnormal were not from the CISOs, it was from the entry level staff. People that are actually using the product every day. So it's actually very illuminating to understand what kind of pain points they're going through or issues to kind of address, right? So
yeah, very cool. So very cool stuff. So for Reddit, the number one play is to capture the sentiment, to turn it into a paid ad strategy. And the second piece of building a B2B SaaS playbook for how you can join the conversation. And the third thing of being able to actually read those threads of what the entry-level people are doing within Reddit. So that is the snack for today, but I do ask all my guests one closing question, which is, what is the number one belief about pipe gen in 25 that the market has completely wrong, and how should companies be thinking about doing it differently to unlock their big opportunities?
market has completely wrong. Not sure. That's a good question. I mean, I'm always calm. I feel like I'm at the edge of testing out, I'll say, new stuff, but I think AI and efficiency is just going to play a huge factor. But I think people are saying that. I think what people are wrong is going to be how many companies are actually doing it effectively,
doing it well.
Are still talking about it. I think I'm living in a bit of a bubble where I hear it all the time, but I think that's still 1% of people. But AI and efficiency is going to play a huge part to kind of help you, but I think it's still going to be underdone like for the year. Like despite what everyone is saying, I think a lot of people are still like wondering, is this real? Is this not? Which to me is shocking, but
it's real and it's all here.
Real. Yeah,
I am a human talking to another human, but soon you may be seeing my digital twin. We'll see. All right. Let's wrap it there, Abdallah. Thank you for joining me on the Go to Market Snacks pod, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in the next one. Peace.